JazzGuitarLessons.net. Improve your jazz guitar playing with a real teacher. My name is Mark here, and welcome to podcast where we'll tackle some of the most basic chord substitutions that take place in the blues jazz progression. So let's get going. Welcome to Jazz Guitar Lessons, where we help guitarists learn jazz faster, express themselves more fluently, and have fun along the way. My name is Mark, and if you're looking to learn jazz, form better practice habits, and especially if you enjoy a French accent, make sure to subscribe. So this has been running, actually, I wonder if the word podcast is the way we could call it. Actually, it's just me giving audio lessons. I'm the founder and, the main guy on this website, the main teacher on jazzguitarlessons.net since 2009. So we celebrated our 10th year actually a few months ago. So welcome to this podcast. If you're not familiar with the way we work, I have my guitar in hand here and I'll walk you through some of the basic substitutions that take place, once again, in, say, the B-flat blues. In the context of jazz, we often do this in B-flat. And just as a little refresher, the B-flat chord progression, the main chords, there's B-flat, I'm playing a 13 here, and E-flat, I'm playing a 9, and back to B-flat, and somewhere along the lines, there's going to be a G7 of some sort, the 6th chord, and then C minor something, C minor 9 to F, and back to B flat. So actually it's a good old 2-5-1 back to the B flat. And the way we organize chord substitutions in the context of jazz is twofold. The first opportunity you have to build different substitutions is actually to add more 2-5s where the R chord changes. And we're going to explore this a little bit later. And the second way to do this is simply chord by chord and use our good old, the tritone sub. That's one of the tricks that every jazz player needs to have in their trick bag. And I'm going to start with the latter. Actually, we're going to start talking about how to employ tritone subs over B-flat blues because it's super easy. And so long as you understand your destination and meaning the chord you're going to, you can do chord substitutions in a snap like this. So I hope you hear that snap in the recording. Actually, I was making an effort to make it really loud. So here we are. You need to think of the blues form in 4 different sections of 4 bars. So the first section is actually B flat 7. Some people call it a quick change down to 4 and back to B flat 7 for bar 3 and bar 4. So I call this the first section of 4 bars, and I call this, bars 1 through 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The second so-called section, and you should see separately in your mind's eye this other set of 4 bars, it's going to 4. It's going to the E-flat chord. And E-flat will last for 2 bars in this case. Optionally, we have a passing E diminished chord. Let's not include it today. So that's bar 5, bar 6, and then bar 7, we have the B-flat again. And bar 8, which is the last of our second section, we have a G7, or so-called a 6th chord or a 6th dominant chord. So this is the second section, so the second batch of 4 bars, namely bars 5, 6, 7, and 8. And comes the last 4 bars where we could say this turnaround. So bar 9, we get the 2 chord, C minor 7. Bar 10, we get the 5 chord, an F7, and we're back to B flat. Some people at this point will run a turnaround of some sort. Could be this, or it could be different, but in bars 11 and 12, people will do something that brings back the 1 chord, the big 1 at the top. All right, so that being said, I want to talk about the tritone sub, and the best places to do it are the points where you have this change to a new section. So if you look at the first 4 bars, it's in the area of what we call the 1, Roman number 1, the B flat. And bar 5, we're going to 4. So the best place to put an actual tritone sub is right before you get to 4, which would be in this case bar 4. So the chord 4 happens in bar 5, and right before bar 5, so in that last bar of the first section, you can add the tritone sub. Namely, that chord. This is an E, 9, and it will go down by half step to the 4 chord, to the E flat, right? And what's interesting here is, I guess a lot of students ask me, Mark, how can I substitute so I can play these crazy lines on blues? and how can I change chords for one another. So if if you approach this in that way, meaning that you get a chord symbol and you could altogether just remove that chord symbol and put another one, it's not going to work. You need to explore the context of it and see where it's the easiest to hear and use, and namely that's bar 4. So let me just play the example to get it in your ears. I'm going to do this in 4 to the floor style. So 4 on the floor, I guess you say. 1, 2, 3, 4. B flat, E flat, B flat, to an E. There you go. So that E natural is actually a tritone sub from B flat. Substituted over a B flat mean that it's an actual a tritone sub. So there's two interesting observations here. Number one is that notice we have an E natural and we are going down to an E flat. So it's only a half step up destination. And that's why I wanted to cover this one first, because it's so easy. Once you know your destination, you just go half, a fret up on the guitar, literally. And this could be any iteration of your E. It could be this, could be whatever you know. And that's the first observation. Second observation is if you look at the notes of that E natural 7, E7 chord in the context of being a B flat root, you're going to tell me, Mark, you're just playing a B flat altered. And that's the key to it, is that's your first vein of chord substitution. It's not necessarily to substitute it for something crazy like we're here and go here or go here or go play crazy things. No. The goal is, well, take that B flat and make it sharp 5, make it altered, make it sharp 9, flat 9, whatever floats your boat, right? So that's the two main observations. So now that you've created this change going into the second so-called section of 4 bars in the blues, so going from bars 1, 2, 3, 4 into bar 5, let's do the same thing by substituting what's happening in bar 8, which is the last bar of our second section of 4 bars, where typically you'd get a G7 chord or a G of some sort, and substitute that to a tritone as well. So this is a D flat 9 chord, and I'm gonna go down to a C minor 9. So let's play the first full 9 bars actually, and I'm gonna do a Charleston rhythm pretty fast. A 1, 2, 3, 4. Down to E flat, back to B flat, tritone sub. And there we are. So notice we go down by a half step. So those are the two main substitutions I recommend you start playing with in order to make sense. So whenever you basically have something that's a 5 of the next thing that's coming after, you can do a tritone sub. That's the first method I was saying. I'm going to start with the ladder. That's what I meant earlier at the beginning of this podcast. All right. Then, of course, we didn't really talk about the last 4 bars of the blues, so bars 9, 10, 11, and 12. You have a C minor 7 and going to an F. So one thing you could do is that F, just change that F to a B, tritone sub, and go down to your B flat. So I'm going to run the full form here to give you an idea of how it sounds, and I'm going to let myself go a little bit, not like too crazy with different chords and inversions, but I'm going to let myself be inspired and hear what I want by doing these 3 things. So in bar 4, I'm going to use an E natural instead of a B flat. In bar 8, I'm going to use a D flat instead of a G. And in bar, 9 and 10, so in bar 10, instead of using an F, I'm going to use a B natural. So 3 tritone subs in 3 different places of the bar. You ready for this? A 1, 2, swinging now. Hey everyone, just a quick break here. If you're loving this episode and you want to elevate your own jazz guitar skills, reach out to us. We've guided thousands of guitarists in becoming accomplished jazzers beyond their wildest dreams. So check the link in the description or visit jazzguitarlessons.net to get started today. Okay, now back to the episode. People will hear this and go, oh, what did you do there? Actually, I'm just following the form and I was thinking of the basic chords. and just adding the tritone sub when they came around. All right, so that's it for the first method I think you could employ to generate beautiful substitutions in pretty much in a snap by targeting your destination and going half step up, hence making use of the infamous tritone sub. And now the second portion of this before I head down to the gym. Actually, we're in an internet-less house as I'm shooting this podcast. We have repairs for about 24 hours. It sort of feels like I'm at the cabin in the woods being disconnected. And at least I know to use a GarageBand and shooting this podcast and my guitar. I don't need electricity. Well, actually computer's running, so I pretty much need electricity, but I don't need internet. But it still feels weird not to have like this Wi-Fi going through my veins. So I'm gonna shed the pain out of the gym. So second, we have substituting chords. We're gonna target the same bars once again, but instead of thinking only of the tritone sub, we're going to talk about secondary dominants. And this is something I talk about at length. You can look at the blog. I guess it's the ultimate no-nonsense guide to jazz harmony, and other places on the website where I discuss secondary dominants. And the point here is, if we have, once again, B flat to E flat, back to B flat, and going to the E flat in bar 5, prior to that bar 5, we can interpolate a 2-5 that is secondary. So considering that E flat, the new 1, the 2-5 that comes before would be F minor 7, B flat 7, E flat. And here's how it sounds. A 1, 2, Charleston's now. Here comes the F minor. There you go. So employing this logic, we could do the same in bar 8. And in bar 8, we have a G7 of some sort. You know, our destination is bar 9, where we have the C minor of some sort. So what we can do with that C minor is use a minor 2-5 right before it in bar 8. So D minor 7 flat 5, yes, right, I said it, D minor 7 flat 5. Step it up, guys. D minor 7 flat 5, the G7 or G altered, down to a C minor of some sort. So I'm going to run the entire thing again to save some time a bit fast. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. F minor coming up. F. 2, 3, 4. 2. Check this out. D minor 7. There you go. And if we could also do the same thing in the last 4 bars, but for the sake of this podcast and demonstrating, it gives you a little bit of an insight into how you could keep doing that. You could keep interpolating 2-5s before the previous bar comes, and you consider that bar that you're going to as your destination, as your new one, and you simply, new one, I mean Roman number 1, actually, right? And you consider this your new one, and then you put a 2-5 before that, and or a tritone sub, or even both, as you've noticed I've done. So I've done 2-5 tritone sub 1, and that gives you some sort of a space to work with. I want to cover 2 more substitutions that are interesting for beginners to work on, and it's the sheer fact of using a half step up or down to make it sound hip. Like, imagine you're on a B flat, imagine you play the first 4 bars something like this, a 1, 2, 3, 4. I played around with half steps up and down from what the actual chord is. It sounds pretty hip. One of the most effective methods to do that would be, we've been focusing all of our attention on the first 8 bars, right, so far. So let's talk about the last 4. And here we have C minor 7 to F7. So a great thing I've heard Galbraith do in his blues studies is actually C sharp minor 7, F sharp 7, C minor 7, F7, and just regularly. So you take that 2-5, and during the 2 bar, you play actually a 2-5 that's half step up, and during the 5 bar, so that would be bar 10, you play the actual 2-5. Just to recap, so in bar 9, where this is written on the sheet as C minor 7, you play a 2-5 that's a half step up, and during bar 10, you play the actual 2-5. And here's how it sounds. I'm going to try to make a little potpourri, like a mix of everything I've talked about so far. A 1, 2, not too fast now. Something like that. Of course, there's other types of turnarounds. You guys are probably familiar with the Tad Dameron, the Ladybird turnaround, which I love. It's this pretty hip. So it's like doing 1, 6, 2, 5, but tritone subbing the 6, the 2, and the 5. And you can make these 3 major 7s, so it sounds very hip. Right? This is B natural major 9, major 7 actually, before going back to your blues. So it's not so bluesy, but it's a very common substitution. So to summarize this one, C sharp minor 7, F sharp 7 in bar 9, and C minor 7, F7 in bar 10. It's really easy to understand, right? It's like you have your destination, you have your 2-5, make the 2-5, not the 1, just a 2-5, a half step up. And last one I want to cover, I really, really like, and I do it all the time. And it's based on what we would call the backdoor substitution. No silly jokes, please. I get enough of these tiny snippets of Windows when you're looking at GarageBand or Logic or a software and use analog keyboard, and you make that snippet smaller by zooming out, and then you see anal. You see anal. So no backdoor anal jokes, please. It's just the literal name of the chord progression because it comes from the back. It comes from a whole step down. Actually, I don't want to get into this because I've done it in other podcasts and videos, but a backdoor is actually a halfway to your tritone sub. More on that than some other time, all right? Or you can comment on this podcast and ask me, and I could go in detail, or else this podcast will be like an hour long. So we'll employ the backdoor in the place where we have C minor 7, F7. So in bars 9 and 10, instead of doing this, C minor 7, F7, we'll simply take this up a minor third. So 3 frets, 1, 2, 3. So E flat minor 7, A flat 7. More comfortable here. What winds up happening is that your A flat chord, this one is a whole step down from your E flat, a whole fret, right? And you can simply substitute this either in your comping or in your soloing, which I use all the time, which it's interesting you take the same old 2-5 and you just bring it a whole step, a minor third up, right? So instead of C minor 7, F7, it's E flat minor 7, A flat 7, and back to 1. I'm going to demonstrate this quickly because I love the sound of it so much. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are many ways you could do it. You could do the same as we've done with the half step up, use the real 2-5, then play a full step up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, bar 10, 2, 3, and back to 1. I just love that sound. It's just so appealing to me. So you see, I'm going to stop it there, but to summarize, you could employ tritone substitutions in the end of sections of these 4-bar sections, so long as your target is very clear and well defined, it's easy to hear. So you don't need to go berserk and sort of just take a chord, take it out, put another chord in its place, and make it sound bad. So you do this logically at the end of sections. Then you can do that 2-5 interpolation. Anytime you have a destination that you could tritone sub to, you could simply build a secondary 2-5. And lastly, I've given you 2 tricks to use on bars 9 and 10. So number 1 is just half step up, and you use it prior. So you go and down there. And the other one is minor third up, which is deemed a backdoor progression. I think the backdoor sounds better when you state the original. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and to destination. It's very satisfying to resolve. So I hope you're getting value out of this podcast and out of these substitutions I've given you on my little nylon string guitar here. Once again, you can share this podcast with anyone you think might like it. We are always happy to look at and get your comments and questions and feedback on this podcast, so you can use the form below if there's anything, even for future podcast topics. Actually, it's just me, Lil Mark, with my microphone in my studio, and I try to make a bite-sized snippet of lesson for you to get knowledge about jazz harmony, songs, or different ways to approach improvisation, etc. So it's always a pleasure to hear from you. Of course, I will see you soon on the website, if you're not on it listening right now, which is jazzguitarlessons.net. Once again, my name is Mark from jazzguitarlessons.net. Improve your jazz guitar playing with a real teacher. See you next time.